Hi, how are we all doing? Well, actually, I'm in my element here. I'm going to be telling you about this 1959 Caravan that I'm in, that's in the middle of restoration. Here, I'm in the kitchen area. Now the caravan in question is, well obviously it's a kitchen area, but the caravan in question is a 1959 Bluebird Teenager. And this kitchen back in 1959 would have been very, very modern. And today it's very, very practical. Everything here is original. As I say, it's been restored. So there's quite a little bit of work to do on it yet. There's been some painting gone on, some repairs done, and it's going to look really, really good. Now, this kitchen is typical 50s, and this kitchen would have been modelled off a domestic kitchen in people's houses. But it's also, as I said, very practical. Now, I'm going to turn me back onto the camera a bit and go over here, because this is a sink area at the back here, of course. You've got all these cupboards storage underneath. What you will note, there's no fridge in here, but this is something they never did. They didn't really put fridges in. Your sink is plastic, big drainer there, because don't forget this caravan would have been actually also used as holiday let, or people would have bought it as a static caravan or a living van as well. Insulation was glass fibre in the walls and the roof. But I love this oven here. It's all original, all quite unique. Everything still works, everything's great. But look at the work surfaces as well. Everything's bang on. I mean, that's really, really lasted well. And look at this. This hasn't been added on. This was part of the feature. This is part of the styling of the time. I think it's really, really cool. It looks really good. Of course, what you will have noticed, there's no lockers up here, and that's quite deliberate because they just didn't fit them there. They thought there was enough storage down below here with the shelves, etc. Because most of the time, as I say, this caravan would have been stationary, so it would have been static on the side. But they did tow them as well. Now, gas lights are all original, and I think the design on those look really, really good. As I say, there's no lockers up there because, as I say, they thought they'd have enough storage with all this, and you have got a lot of storage. Over on this other side, from the kitchen, you've got the toilet room. Now, literally, it is a area that's just a little room. So, consequently, you'd have fitted a loo in there, and that would have been your lot, really, and you'd have had to make do with that bit of room you got in there and shut the door on you. And if it was dark, well, you were in the dark. You have to take your torch in. Right, okay, let's move over to around the middle of the van, because this section, don't forget this van is 7'4" wide, but it feels so much wider. And it really is a very spacious tourer. Well, tourer stroke static caravan. Anyway, let's have a look at this bit over here. Right, now in the middle is really what you class as the sort of living area and at the lounge, which we'll do in a moment. But your storage, you've got this sort of set of drawers here, cupboards beneath. Again, you'll find nothing at the top, but again, that was how most caravans were in this period. All this has been revarnished. Some of the drawers have been repaired. This has all been redone, and again the walls have been repainted and repaired where necessary. And over on this side here is a settee stroke bed. Now this has got to be reconstructed, that's going to be all redone, so that's in the process of that happening. the lino, believe it or not, is the original lino. Now look, Bluebird caravans were literally mass produced in the 50s, where they literally, the guy who started them up, Bill Knott, and his father, pre-war, produced some very, very cheap caravans, and they wouldn't even put a brand name on them. All they would do would maybe put a little sticker on and call it the Midland, and literally they were cheap, very poorly built. After the war, of course, there was demand for caravans, and especially for living, so the name of Midland was dropped, and they came and they used Bluebird more as a model name, but they never really got themselves a name until the very, very early 50s, and then the Bluebird name came about. Now Bluebird didn't have a fantastic reputation because they were sort of built on a very cheap scale, but Bill Knott knew he had to improve, and by the mid-50s the caravans were better. And I reckon this proves it. Proper wood veneer. Don't forget, those days of photo veneer hadn't started at all. This is the proper real McCoy. And over on this side here, there's where a fire would be. Now they had a solid fire in these, and you would have burned wood, or you'd have had coal light or something like that on, and that would have radiated quite a lot of heat. Now on some of the vans that would have actually warmed your hot water as well. The fire's been taken out. Now one of the big problems of when you were making these caravans was they had, in those days, asbestos in there. Now they didn't quite know the dangers of asbestos, so on this restoration that has been removed for safety reasons. It was removed very safely, of course, because you've got to be very careful. So there's no asbestos in there at all now. Somebody at some stage has had a gas fire in there, and they've left a gas tap in, so that is going to have some sort of heating of some description, but that's not yet been decided. Now above here would have been the cupboard where you'd have put your clothes to air, because of course off the heating off the fire would have done that for you. Plus as well, you've got the chimney at the top there. I love the chain on here, stop you overdoing it. And a little mirror as well on the top, and I like this over the fireplace, so you could put a little ornament or a clock. Very, very neat touch. Now when it came to the wardrobe, that was it, and it was quite a big wardrobe. But also back in that time, what they used to do was put a solid partition across here, and that would come out like there, like so, and fits into position. Look at this, it's all been redone and revarnished, and so it enclosed the front and the back end off from the rest of the caravan. I'll be careful, I'll put that back. Just shut that to there just slowly, because I don't want to break anything. But on this side, when we were saying about there's no lockers, these have been fitted. Now I'm going to go in the bed base here. And you've got this little shelf and everything. You've got your gas light up there, but you've got these little lockers. Quite neat. Also a feature is this 3-paned window with the middle one here that would open up. So obviously giving you some fresh air and also some daylight to come through. So this van would feel very bright during the daytime. Let's get over from out of the bed. So there you have it. This is a real spacious set. I mean, look at all the space, and it feels like an 8-foot wide van of today, in all fairness. But anyway, let's go into the lounge area, because that's got the original cushions still there. They're still in place, and it's obviously the front end is going to be still under restoration, so it's not obviously finished yet, but we're going to go and have a look anyway. Come on. Right, I'm in the lounge area, and look at this, it's a wrap-round seating at the front here. That's something you get on some of the modern vans. I mean, this really is a real timepiece. this just throw you back to that period of time when, well, caravanning was, dare I say it, possibly a little bit more fun really, and there was so many different makes and caravans to choose from, and they were all different. They didn't use the same components and things like that. But anyway, back to this. Now this, as I say, has only just started to be restored at the back end. This upholstery is the original upholstery, and it's sprung upholstery too. And to be quite honest, it's still got a bit of seating in there, to be honest with you. At the front here there's a little bit of rock coming through, but that's, to get that sorted, the front panel will come out, and that can be sorted out fairly easily and quickly. All this will be all repainted again, of course. Some of it at the top has already been done, and the pelmets too. Now, if you notice on those, some of the shots that I did before we came into the side, inside the van, over the windows it had this wavy trim, aluminium trim, and that was a Bluebird trademark, if you like, that also was copied by Fair-owned caravans some years later. But it was a Bluebird idea, as far as I'm aware, if that's right at the top of my head. I'll have to check that, but I'm pretty sure that's the way, not the other way around. But again, notice just a shelf, no lockers. Again, people didn't take as much with them. But it's what a place to be able to all sit round here. There'd be a table here, and you could all have your meal. A kitchen over there, that would be like the bee's knees of all the kitchens. And you know hikey roof vent, of course, but you have got a little roof vent at the top. Plus you've got a gas light over here, and that would be seen as sufficient to light this area up. Now on some sites, some people would have these fitted with electric, so they wouldn't probably use the gas at all, only for cooking. But if you were using it as a big touring van, as some people did, then you would be obviously relying just totally on the gas. And the gas didn't have, bottle didn't go on the front drawbar. No, it went, stood round the back of the van and connected up through a tap at the back. So, Bluebird, what happened to them? Well, they were a massive company. By the late 50s they were really, really big. And the chap who had them, Bill Knott, I think he owned Poole or Bournemouth Golf Course or something like that. He had about 5 cars, Bentleys, Aston Martins. He had a speedboat, which was like the best at the time, that period. He used to go around Poole Harbour in it, apparently. But he was also a radio ham. Now, for people who don't know what a radio ham is, back in the day, people used to have these massive aerials on top of their houses, and they could tune in and talk to somebody across the other side of the world, and they used to give themselves like a code name. And Bill Knott used to do this, and he used to sort of be able to talk to people, say, virtually all over the world. So that was one of his other hobbies. Also playing golf, and his speedboat and his cars. So by about 1963, give you a quick history there, Bluebird massive, Sprite, Eccles caravans big. There was a merger in July 1963. The company was rebranded Caravans International, and using Bluebird, Sprite and Eccles basically as brand names, but CI Group was the holding group. Bill Knott decided to step away from the business. A couple of years later he started producing caravans again, called BK, which was obviously his initials, and BK just really stuck literally to making holiday static caravans. But Bluebird used to make horse boxes, they used to make delivery vans, but they also made one of the first affordable coach-built motorhomes called the Highwayman, which was released in about 1957. I think that cost around about the £700–800 mark. And it was, as the coach-built motorhome was starting to come to the fore, which was from the late 50s, with the new chassis cabs with the Morrises and the Ford Thames and the Bedford CAs, they developed a coach built body, so basically a caravan body on the back of a chassis cab, and the Highwayman became very successful, and it was a model name they used for many years later. So basically then Bluebird under the CI umbrella grew at a big rate of knots, pooling Dorset. They exported a lot again round into Europe, mainly producing static caravans. They did some Tourers, renamed the Tourers Europe, which became Europa. And if you know anything about Europa, or that name sounds familiar, you say, well, I had a Swift, and that was his Sterling Europa. Well, that's right, because Swift actually eventually bought the Europa name back in '94. So consequently, the Bluebird, actual Bluebird name, was sold off in 1980 by CI Caravans as CI started to struggle as the recession bit, and they sold it ironically to Bill Knott. Bill Knott bought his old company back, so Bluebirds were then classed as BK Bluebird, and they were quite successful in the static caravan market into the 80s, into the 90s, and then another change of ownership came along. They were bought out by Willoughby, and Willoughby for some years produced them down at the factory at Poole in Dorset before shutting that down, I think around about 2010, and moved production up to Willoughby's main factory up at Hull. A few years ago now, the Bluebird name was dropped, which was rather a shame, because Bluebirds were once one of the most popular static touring caravans, motorhomes on the road. And also the Bluebird name was taken off the motorhomes, and they were going to rebranded CI Autohomes in the 70s. So the Bluebird name really was distanced to just to go on to static and the odd park home that they made. So that's a big history lesson, sorry about that. But anyhow, back to this. I can't wait to see this done. When it's done and finished, I'm going to be here again and have a look at it, and we shall see how it looks in all its glory. It'll be brought back and it'll look really fab, I'm sure it will. I can see it's taking shape. I know when this was actually brought in, it didn't look the best, and it was really grubby, especially the carpet was extremely grubby, but the outcome was it saved the lino underneath. And so that's, as I said before earlier on, that's the original lino. Right, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, thanks for all the likes. Please give me some comments on this video, I'd love to hear it. And I think you'll agree, sort of going back in time and looking what and how the caravan has progressed, and how individual they were in those days, and just pure nostalgia. I'm sure some of our older viewers may have stopped in these on their holidays, on the coast, in the countryside, on sites. Lots went onto hire fleets, but the Bluebird name is being still surviving all these years later on a restoration like this. Right, I'll see you on the next video, and thanks again. Bye bye.